So entering week 5 of the 2023 NFL season, I said that this was going to be a fugly week, a freaking ugly week in terms of the game slate that was on paper. Well, week 5 has come and gone, and I guess I will admit that I was kind of wrong on some of the games that happened, and I was also kind of right on some of the games that happened. But hey, it's the NFL for you. It's not like WWE where it's scripted in some things, and also with AEW as well. But nonetheless, you never know what can happen. It's mostly unpredictable, I guess. But that being said, let's talk about the week that was week 5 of the 2023 NFL season. Of course, you had some teams that were going on bye-bye first. That was the Cleveland Browns, the LA Chargers, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Tampa Bay Bucks. They were the first teams to go on bye-bye for 1 week, and they won't go on bye-bye for the rest of the 2 months that are in the NFL season. So anyway, we kicked off week 5 with Thursday Night Football only on Amazon Prime Video for that Jeff Bezos money, as Justin Fields and the Bears jumped to a 27-3 halftime lead before having to hold off a feisty Washington comeback until DJ Moore sealed the game with his third touchdown late in the fourth quarter, as the Bears get their first win of the season over the Washington Commanders, 40-20. Going to the Sunday slate of games, in the early morning portion first, down in London, mate, the Jaguars stayed there and left London with a 2-0 mark as they held off a Bills comeback despite all their injuries on defense. Thanks to Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley, and Travis Etienne's big days, that trio were just too much to overcome for the Buffalo Bills as the Jaguars went all in London, mate, and beat the Bills 25-20. Back in the States, a battle of young quarterbacks between CJ Stroud and Desmond Ridder went down to the wire as Stroud and the Texans took a late 1-point lead, but Desmond Ridder gave his kicker Younghoe Koo a chance to win, and he nailed it. The Falcons beat the Texans 19-18. Not having Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jahmyr Gibbs, as well as losing cornerback Emmanuel Mosley to another torn ACL, which is very unfortunate, didn't stop Jared Goff and the Lions from taming Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers as Detroit beat Carolina 42-24 in a blowout. Zach Moss's big day was very much needed for the Indianapolis Colts as they beat the Titans 23-16, although at a high cost, which we'll talk about later on. Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins shook off a feisty Giants defense, especially coming off a first half pick six as Tyreek Hill and Raheem Mostert's second half scores buried the Giants, who lost Daniel Jones to a neck injury 31-16. Derek Carr shook off the stink of last week's loss to the Tampa Bay Bucks with a complete torching of whatever happened to the New England Patriots as the Saints blanketed the New England Patriots 34-0. Like, ugh. Talk about a really bad loss. An even worse loss than last week for New England. The Pittsburgh defense and their special teams shut down a loaded Ravens offense as Kenny Pickett connected with George Pickens for a very late touchdown to ice Baltimore 17-10. Going to the afternoon slate of games. After weeks of frustration and all this anger, the Joe Burrow and the Jamar Chase connection went full force for 3 touchdowns in the desert as the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Arizona Cardinals 34-20. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles looked primed for a shootout against Matthew Stafford and the Rams, but they're pushed their way in the second half as the Eagles beat the Rams 23-19. The Broncos continue to find ways to lose. Like they keep losing winnable games against these teams that they can beat, and they literally fumbled away this one as Russell Wilson fumbled a chance to win this game against the Jets as Breece Hall scooped and scored a fumble and sealed a wild high win over the Denver Broncos as the Jets win 31-21. The Vikings had to rally from a 27-13 third quarter deficit against the Kansas City Chiefs, but they had no timeouts in the second half. They lost Justin Jefferson to a hamstring injury, and there was a controversial no call in the red zone, which ended any chance of a comeback as Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs held serve 27-20. And in the Sunday Night Football game for Week 5, my Brock Purdy and my San Francisco 49ers offense scorched the Dallas Cowboys' supposed top-tier defense, while Fred Warner and San Fran's own strong front seven made life a living hell, a complete living hell, for Dak Prescott as the 49ers absolutely butt whooped the Dallas Cowboys, or the Cowgirls, as most people like to say, 42-10. How about them Cowboys, huh? And in the Monday Night Football game to close out week number 5, Jordan gave all the love to the Raiders defense as Amik Robinson, the corner, shut the door on a Packers game-winning drive in the late seconds of the game, with Las Vegas' third and decisive interception on Jordan Love as the Raiders held off the Packers 17-13. Talk about a really rough loss for the Packers after starting off 1-1 or 2-1. Yeah, really rough. 2 really bad losses for Green Bay. So yeah, that was your week 5 game slate. A couple ugly ones here and there, but for the most part, I mean, it was all right. It was okay. So let's get into your winners and losers of week number 5. Starting off with my 2 winners for this week, the Detroit Lions. They had a couple of injuries going in, like that kind of popped up for when I saw it. I was like, wow, this happened. This is kind of out of the blue, especially to receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, backup running back Jahmyr Gibbs. I know they were getting back one of their second top receivers in Jameson Williams. I'm not sure if they really used them all that much, but nonetheless, their game against the Panthers was pretty much a testament how much they still have these backload of players that really stepped up, including Josh Reynolds, when one of these guys goes down. In the case was Amon-Ra St. Brown being out for the game, Jahmyr Gibbs going out for the game. You have David Montgomery, who had a big game against Carolina. But unfortunately for the Lions, it did come at a price on the defensive end. They lost Emmanuel Mosley to a torn ACL in his right leg, which was really unfortunate for them, which is also kind of a blow to their secondary because you didn't really get to know how Mosley was going to do coming off that torn ACL he suffered last year as a member of the 49ers. So it's kind of unfortunate, but they made do what they had and put a beating on the Panthers. And yeah, it's pretty crazy where the Lions are right now. They're just that red hot. That's on both sides of the ball. And considering where their schedule is at in the next couple of weeks, they're only going to get hotter. And while the rest of the division in the NFC North really falters. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars, I guess maybe being in London, maybe getting that all elite rub from back in August is really what they needed, huh? They really had to go all in London to rediscover themselves. At least that's what it looks like for now, because it's clear that Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley have been a really strong duo so far. That connection is really clicking on all cylinders. And Travis Etienne in the running game, it's been pretty dang good for them. But the defense went all in that second game against the Bills, making Josh Allen really uncomfortable in the trenches, and making him make some pretty critical mistakes in that game. And even if they allowed Buffalo to get back in the game in like that one drive where it took only 45 seconds to get a score and cut the game down to like 25-20, they still found a way to stop them in pretty much every sense that they could. So now it's just a matter for the Jaguars to carry that back over into the States as they head into their next game against the Colts, minus a certain quarterback that we're about to get into. The losers for this week, the New England Patriots. Like, oh man, these past 2 weeks for New England has been very bad, like really, really bad. Like, it's one thing if the Patriots like got their butts whooped and only scored 3 points against the Dallas Cowboys, but then you go back home after a 2-week road trip, and then you get completely blanked. You get completely whitewashed against the New Orleans Saints at home. That's awful. Like, Tom Brady wouldn't allow that shit to fly. That is so bad. Like, the offense looks horrible. I mean, I don't know how much blame you could put on Mac Jones at this point, because it's like he doesn't have anything to work with. No offensive line, no receivers to speak of. It's like, hell, I know Tom Brady, like Bill Belichick barely gave Tom Brady shit, but it's like, damn, It's like, wait, what more can you do to really bury Mac Jones here? It's like, maybe Mac Jones is just a victim of the system, you know? So now it's like, you have to consider, like, even though we're a quarter way into the season now, it's like, you have, if you're Robert Kraft, the owner, you really have to consider changing things up after the season. That includes moving on from Bill Belichick, from all of his duties, both as a general manager and as a head coach, because it's becoming more evident that despite these roster moves, since becoming the de facto GM, and I forgot which year it was, that Bill Belichick, he's losing his luster. He's becoming almost more out of touch than Vince McMahon. Like, for those of you that care about that so much. So, and it's also looking like that Tom Brady was more important to the Patriots than Bill Belichick was. So, it's not going to get any better for the Patriots from here on out. They're going to be playing against the Bills twice. Then they have to play Miami. Washington could give them a scare. So can the Colts, even with Gardner Minshew. And then you have to play the Chiefs. Oh, man. The Patriots are going to get buried in the AFC. And let's be honest here. You really got to make some changes here. And that starts with moving on from Bill Belichick. And then Anthony Richardson, the Colts quarterback, because it just really sucks, you know, to see him get injured again. This is his fourth game in 5 weeks with yet another injury. Like the first one, like this first game, he left in the fourth quarter. And then the second game, he left with a concussion. And then the third game, I think it was like a leg injury he missed the third game because he was in concussion protocol. And then now here you are. He has the worst of the bunch, a shoulder sprain, which he suffered on a quarterback side draw that they called on. Or I'm not sure if they called on that or he ad-libbed on it. But either way, it's like, as I said this, like when I last talked about Anthony Richardson, he has to learn to protect himself. They have to teach him that because he's not going to last in this league very long if he can't protect himself. So I'm not sure what he's got to do at this point. So it's like he has to be taught. He's got to be taught, or he has to learn that shit. But for the Colts, they'll be fine with Gardner Minshew for the time being. But it just really sucks to see at least what I want to see, a very solid quarterback. A very solid quarterback. It's just that he has to protect himself. So to wrap things up, let's take a look at my one big takeaway from week number 5 of this 2023 season. I mean, we're a quarter way. We're a quarter way through this season, and we're pretty much wrapped up with Act 1 as we now enter Act 2. Yes, there's in my opinion, 4 acts. There are 4 acts in this NFL season. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before here on Very Cold Lasagna, but there are 4 acts to an NFL season. You have the first month, and then you have the second month, which is the halfway point, and then you have the third month, which is the end of the season with December, and then you have the playoffs, of course, with the Super Bowl. So now we're done with Act 1, and we reached a full month of this season where teams get to settle in, figure out their growing pains or what they have to adjust to. Now, unless you're really performing pretty badly or you're in a state of rebuild, then I gotta say this, Act 2 is where you start to find your true identity. It's where you start to really discover who you are. And it really starts to kick in when you start to reach Act 3, which is where you hit that home stretch. Again, unless you're really that bad. That's when you know what your identity is. Because let's face it, we still have 2 months to go in this regular season. It's still a pretty long time for someone to make a run or something to really come crashing down when it hurts inside, brother. So, yeah, still plenty of time for teams to figure it out and either go on an improbable run at a playoff spot or even a division title if they want to dream until they can't. So, yeah, no one knows who they truly are. Like, no one knows their true no team knows their true identity And yes, I'll even admit it. Like, for as good as my team, the 49ers, are doing right now, who knows what their identity is at this point. So, yeah, their identity will be discovered, I'd say, halfway or 3/4 of the way through the season. So, there's still plenty of time, so still plenty of time. So, anyway, let me know your thoughts about week 5 of this 2023 season. Let me know your thoughts on the games, your own winners and losers for this past week. And yeah, what is your big takeaway from week 5 as we head towards week 6? So anyway, I know everything was thrown out of flux with terms of the schedule, but we'll be back to normal in this coming week with the picks, the 49er stuff, and the usual gist of the NFL stuff. But anyway, that is it for your week 5 recap of 2023. And keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. This is DylanLasagna signing out. And until next time, peace out.